Okay, so in this video, I'm going to explain the concept of ordinary and exact interest. Ordinary and exact interest are just types of simple interest. So in simple interest, we know that the interest I is the product of the principal amount, the rate, and the time. So I stands for the interest. The P is the principal amount. Sometimes the amount you borrowed or loan, or sometimes the amount you invested. So that's the principal amount. And then the R is the rate. Say like 5%, 7%, 8%, and so on. And T is the time. And this must be expressed in years. That's very important. Okay, so just a quick recall on how to find a simple interest. So example would be, suppose an amount of 10,000 was invested at say 5% simple interest, so SI. And this will be, we want to find the interest earned say after 3 years. Let's say after 3 years. So to find the interest, we simply use the formula I is equal to PRT. So I is the principal amount, 10,000. The rate, 5%, should be changed to decimals, 0.05, and the time is 3 because it's 3 years. So for basic examples on simple interest, we just put the numbers 10,000, 5% in terms of 0.05 and 3, and then we just compute for the value, and that will be the interest. The interest earned is 1,500. So that's 1,500 peso interest. So that means if this is an investment, you invested 10,000 at 5%, after 3 years, your money will grow from 10,000. So from 10,000 pesos, it will grow to 10,000 plus the interest, 1,500. So you have a total of 11,500 after 3 years. Okay, so that's how your money will grow. Now, not all. So how do we, where do we see ordinary and exact interest? Now, there are cases in which the interest is computed in terms of the number of days, especially if you are borrowing some amount and you have to return it within or before a year. So the count of the time is based on days. For instance, suppose we have the same amount. This time, let's talk about lending money. So suppose we have still 10,000 pesos. We borrowed 10,000, and at 5% simple interest, SI. Okay. And we need to return the money after, or we have to pay for the borrowed amount for say after 165 days. So as you can see, the number of the time now is no longer expressed in years, it is given in days. But the rule for the simple interest formula is to express the number of the time into years and not the number of days. Okay, so how are we going to do that? So first, we need to determine what type of interest we are talking about. Okay, is it an ordinary? So this is where we compare, is it about ordinary for an exact interest. Okay, so I'll show you the difference between the two. Okay, so here is our guide. If the simple interest is an ordinary interest, the year is equivalent to 360 days. If the simple interest is an exact interest, then the year must be is equivalent to 365 days. Okay. Later on, we'll talk about how to use this exact time or actual time and also the approximate time. But for now, let's focus on these two types of simple interest, the ordinary and the exact interest. So we'll show the concept of this using the examples that I have created, and that is when we invest or we borrowed 10,000 pesos at 5% simple interest, considering it is ordinary and considering it is exact. Okay, let's start with the ordinary interest. If the simple interest is an ordinary interest, so based on the idea, 1 year is equivalent to 360 days. So when we compute for the simple interest, so that means I is equal to P times R times T. Note, we perform the usual computation, 10,000 times 0.05, and then for that time, this is where you apply the concept of 1 year equals 360 days. Okay, so since we are given, so the given time, you have to pay this after 165 days. We need to convert the 165 days into years. So 165 days can be converted by multiplying it by the conversion factor. We have 1 year is equivalent to 360 days. So if you think about it, this is simply 165 over 360 year of a year, and that is no more days, and then the unit of time is already in years, and that's 165 over 360. So that is the time in years that we are going to place in our formula, 165 over 360 days. And then we just do the computation. You can use a calculator to find the exact value. So this is equal to 229.16666 and so on. So we can write 229.17. So the interest is equal to 229.17 pesos. So that is the added amount after 165 days. Okay, so the total amount that you have to return, if it will be asked, so 10,000 plus the 229.17, a total of 10,229.17. Okay, so this is for the ordinary interest. So let's go to the exact interest. Suppose we were told that we need to apply the exact interest, and I need you to focus on observing how this is similar to the ordinary interest and check the main difference. So of course the steps will be similar, but there's just one main difference. Okay, again we use the same amount, 10,000 at 0.05, so that's 5% simple interest rate, and this is also after 165 days. Okay, so to compute for the simple interest using the exact interest, we apply the formula. I is P R T. So we repeat the process. 10,000 times the rate, 0.05, times the time. Okay, so we apply now the concept of exact interest, and that is, in exact interest, 1 year is equal to 365 days. So when we convert the 165 days into a year, so that means 1 year is 365 days. The time that we need to use is 165 over 365 years. So this is the number that we have to place. It's the same number we have here when we simplify this conversion. No more days, no more days. The unit of time is in years. So we place that number. So we have 165 over 365 days. Okay? So if we go back to our solution earlier, we did exactly the same, but for the ordinary interest, take note that we use 360 because 1 year is equivalent to 360. Okay, in the exact interest, we have to use 365 days because that is the conversion for the exact interest. Okay, the days is 165 over 365. And again, make use of your calculator and compute for the exact value. So we will get 226.0273. We can make that 226.03. So the interest here is 226.03 pesos. Okay? So that's the only difference when we compute for simple interest that are when the time is given in years, we just plug in the number of years. But when we speak of ordinary or exact, and the number of the time given is less than a year, and specifically in days, we have to convert them and follow the corresponding equivalent number of days per year. Ordinary 360 for 1 year, while for the exact interest, 1 year is 365 days. Apply the formula as usual. Place in the numbers. Make sure that you write the proper converted number, like 165 over 360 and 165 over 365. Then compute and you're done. Okay, so that's exact interest and ordinary interest. Now this time, I was talking about the two types of time earlier, so let's go back to that. So under ordinary interest and exact interest, there are cases in which they will not tell you exactly, like you have to pay after 100 days or 165 days or 200 days. But instead of saying that, they will tell you specific dates. So say you borrowed the money on August 9, 2019, and you have to pay the borrowed amount on January, say 4, 2020. So since the number of days is not given here, we have to compute for the number of days. And there are two ways in which we can compute for the time. So we can compute for the time, either it is as exact time or approximate time. So what's the difference between exact time and approximate time? So exact time refers to the actual number of dates between two given dates. So a number of days. So this is number of days between two given dates. So you have to count how many days from August 9, 2019 until January 4, 2020. While in the approximate time, we have to assume that each month will be having 30 days. And that includes February. So even though we know that February has 28 days, since under the approximate time, every month will have 30 days, then the February month will have a counted days of 30. Okay? So let's consider these dates that I have created here. So how do we find the exact time and the approximate time from August 9, 2019 to January 4, 2020. Let's start with the exact time. So for the exact time, so I'll show you two ways, and that is number one by patience, because you have to count from August 9, 2019 to 2020, January 4. So what we can do, we start with the month of August and compute how many days will run after August 9 until the end of August. So if the loan started on August 9, that means the first payment will happen the first count will happen on August 10. So the first day will be on August 10. So one way to count the remaining days in August is that we remove the dates August 1 to 9 from the 31 days of August. We have 31 days in August. So we remove those 9 days that has from August 1 to August 9, because the counting will start on August 10. So after August 9, we have 31 minus 9, and that is, we have 22 days count for the month of August. Now we run to September. September has 30 days, and then October has 31, November has 30, December has 31, and then in January we have until January 4 count, so that's 4 days in January, so we have 4. So that means from August 9, after August 9 until January 4, the number of days will be 22 plus 30 plus 31 plus 30 plus 31 plus 4. That's a total of 148 days. So that is the number of days we will be using if we say a loan of some amount was borrowed on August 9, 2019 and has to be paid on January 4, 2020. So this 148 days is the one that you will place in the formula. I is equal to the principal times the rate times the time. So for any given principal and rate, the days is 148, and depending on the type of interest, if it's ordinary or exact, you either place 360 or you place 365. Okay, so as you can see, we are now combining the concept of the exact interest and the ordinary interest with the exact time and the approximate time. Okay, so again, that's how you compute for the exact time. List down all the dates, all the days in from the starting month to the last month where you have to pay the borrowed amount. Just count the number of days and make sure you write the corresponding number of days for each month. You can use your hands to determine which month will have 31 days. Okay, so I hope you learned that you have learned that idea. There's a faster way to identify how many days in each month without looking at the calendar, okay, by using your hands. Okay, so what about the approximate time? Okay, for the approximate time, let's use the same dates. So you borrowed an amount from August 9, 2019, and you have to pay it on January 4, 2020. Under the approximate time, the idea of the approximate time is every month. So we have 30 days for each month. So when we count from August 9, 2019 to January 4, 2020, so that means we have August, September, October, November, December, and January. So for August, since the loan was done on August 9, we have, so that means since every month has 30 days, even if in the calendar we have 31 days for August, we have 30 days minus 9 days from August 1 to 9, so minus 9. And you have 21 remaining days for August. Okay, so 30 again, because it's an approximate time, each month will have 30 days. All the following months will have 30, 30, 30, 30. And by January, we have until from January 1 to 4, that's 4 days. So if we count all these days, we have 4 of the 30s. So 4 times 30 is 120, plus 21 is 141, plus 4, we have 145 days. So to compute for the interest, so this is done for, or well, this is the exact approximate time. If this is about ordinary interest, so I is PRT equals the amount that we borrowed is let's say 10,000. The given 10,000. The rate is 5%, so 0.05. To use the days, we have 145. For the ordinary interest, we use 360. If this was an exact interest, so I is PRT, that's 10,000 times the rate 0.05 times the time 145 days over 365 days for the exact interest. The first one is for an ordinary interest. So once we have the setup, it's very easy to find the values using your calculator. So that's 10,000 times 0.05 times the fraction 145 over 360, and that will give you an interest of 201.39 pesos. For the other one, we have I is equal to 10,000 times 0.05 times the fraction 145 divided by 365 days. So that will give you 198.62. Okay, so this is exact interest. Do not confuse it with the exact time. So exact interest, the effect is on the conversion. 1 year is 365 days. Ordinary interest, 1 year is 360 days. So that's how we compute for the actual time and the approximate time. Actual time, you have to count all the days exactly. Okay, that is why it's called exact time. Approximate time, the key is every month we have to use 30 days. Regardless if it is a month with 31 days, you have to change it into 30 days. So even February will have 30 days in this approximate time concept. Okay, so I hope you understand now the difference between ordinary interest and exact interest, and also the difference between exact time and approximate time. In my other video, I'll show you 2 examples on how we use these concepts of ordinary and exact interest, and the exact time and the approximate time. Okay, that's it.